Mom! Dad's got another tattoo!
Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy. We try and cover everything you ever wanted to know about weight loss injections and a couple of things you probably didn't as we try and navigate midlife. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Mum, Dad's Got Another Tattoo, the Midlife Crisis podcast as we try and navigate our way through this period of our life. I'm Mark and I'm joined again by Richard. How you doing?
I'm good.
And how's your week been so far?
Hectic. I've mentioned briefly, I run my own business, work in the specialist education sector, started from the ground up with nothing, and the stresses change as business as it's progressed. But yeah, it's been a stressful week. It's spinning a lot of plates, and as I've got older, the worry changes. I didn't care about anything. I lived day to day in my 20s and 30s, whether that was a good or bad thing. Now I've become a serial worrier.
I'm reminded of this quote: "My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened." That's the thing about worry, isn't it? We're worrying about things that don't happen.
I mean, I am a world-class overthinker. I'm a people pleaser. I know this. I worry about what people think about me. I worry about random stuff that won't happen. I know I'll wake up at 3:30 every morning and say to myself, no. And that's it. My mind's going. Work stuff, checklist. Do I write a list when I get up? Do I bollocks? Should I? Yes. And that's what I've got to start doing. Add to that list. It will take away all that stuff. But I just get caught up doing so many different things and having self-diagnosed undiagnosed ADHD.
Self-undiagnosed ADHD. Maybe that phrase is a indication that is an accurate assessment.
Yeah. I mean, in the arena I work in, I'm around it a lot, and I know I have it. I mean, while I'm working, I've got a tablet here. I have to have YouTube on, Netflix. I can't have silence. So I sleep with headphones in. You know, I have to have something going on. I mean, even my wife and daughter have the phrase from me, you know, from the film Up, when the dog's talking and he goes, "Oh, squirrel." That's me. And even my daughter says, "Mum, Dad's squirreling again." And they call it squirreling because I'll be doing something and saying, "Oh, something shiny," you know, and I'm off. And I know I've got that. So, yeah, it's been a good week, but a lot going on. How's yours been?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm a little bit further along the line of developing this or solving these issues, because what you're saying is recognisable to me, but also in the rearview mirror. I've left a lot of this stuff behind, and I think it is the lifestyle changes that have engendered that. And kicked it all off, because, you know, drink less, quality of sleep is better, feel healthier, general feeling within yourself is much higher. And I've found that what I call the doom loop of thinking, where you think about a problem and you may even come up with a solution. You think, all right, that's what I'll do about it. And then the problem will come back, you'll think it through again and come up with the same solution. And you think about that over and over again. That's kind of gone away as well. So that's a real benefit. But you have to make changes. I think one of the things that I've learned is that doing the same thing over and over again will get you the same results over and over again. And everything that has happened over the last 18 months has been a result of active and purposeful change. And it's no use saying, "Oh, that's just what I'm like." Well, maybe it is, but then you do have to put something in place to change, whether that's like a health regime, whether that's actually doing the checklists. I mean, checklists work, but only if you do them.
Yeah. And it's I mean, I've never run a business before. It's all a learning process. And now I'm at a point, I mean, I'm more organised than I've ever been at the moment, but I know there's more I can still be doing. It's a learning curve, but I can't complain. If I didn't have business, if I was sitting here doing nothing, that would be my real worry. But yeah, not a bad week, not too bad.
You heard last week about my Fat Boy in Thailand issues.
By the way, can I say Fat Boy in Thailand is an excellent album name. What an album name that is.
Or is it an indie band?
Yeah, good. Fat Boy in Thailand. I'm going to write that down.
Don't write that down. Don't write that down. It's evidence. Yeah, so when I came back from there, I I did start working out. I started doing yoga, based on watching people do it in great shape, doing headstands on the beach in off the coast of Koh Phangan. In fact, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to touch my toes and do a headstand.
Can do a headstand. Let's crack.
No, I can't touch my toes either because yoga was abandoned after a while because I got into what I really wanted to do. There's the old phrase about American Beauty, which is, I want to look good naked. There was an element of that. But what I actually I want to look good sitting down. Because I saw myself sitting down with like a great big tin of beans with a couple of matchsticks poking out as my arms, as your torso just sort of gets rounder and rounder, and you can sort of get away with it when you're standing up tall, and then you sit down and wallop. Yeah. There it all is in all its wobbly beauty.
You don't have to tell me. I mean, as I said, I've said about my weight increase at my worst. At the peak where I said enough's enough, I was 18.5 stone. At my plain weight, I was 14.5 when I was, in my peak muscle when I played 15 stone, but I was solid. And then I went to 18.5 of blancmange, right? When you get on a plane and you get the belt and you go, okay, now there's not much of that left when you adjust it, you go, there's not much left on the end. And when you've adjusted it, you're like, fuck, I better make a change. And that's where I was. And back in the day I used to, I don't really drink much these days. And that's all been part of it. It's changed back in those lifestyle change. And it happened at the time you started your gospel of Mounjaro. And I knew about it. You'd heard about it. You see the news reports or this suit stars on it. It's like the same as you, where you go, what is it? £1,000, £2,000 a month. And then obviously you did all the research. I just tagged on the end of it. And I can say from my personal view of it and my experience, because obviously people do have side effects. My wife had side effects when she did it for a brief period, but I had nothing but positive results with it, and it focused you physically it focuses everything, and all those rough edges. I'll have a drink here, or I'll just eat that rubbish. It takes that away, and for me, that was the catalyst to the weight loss.
Yeah. So you mentioned I did research. I mean, that's overblown it a little bit. I looked up to see how much it was.
That's foremost, yeah.
Yeah, just to see if it was feasible. And I think it is feasible, more or less. I mean, if you've got to balance these things with the benefits as well. Yeah. You mentioned side effects as well. There are side effects, and I'll come on to those in a minute. But what you're balancing that against is not nothing. It's the increasing morbidity and effects of being fat. Yes. And you can be fat and healthy, you can be fat and fit, and we can all that, but I can tell you that I wasn't. No. I was just fat and fat.
Same here. I had no gym work. I sat at a desk 8 to 10 hours a day, and I was on that slipper. I was knackered walking. I've got an active dog, knackered walking. My one thing a week, I would go to the local park near us, which it's a really big, and they've got something called Cardiac Hill. And believe me, back then I knew why it was called Cardiac Hill. It was halfway up was a struggle, and there is. You can be fat and healthy, and I was the other end of that spectrum.
Yeah, me too. I felt that in Thailand as well, when you're sort of doing a lot of swimming, and you're trying to be active with your children and that, and you sort of can't do it. And I felt I was too young to be able to not do that anymore, and it was just completely pathetic, is what I thought. But I felt I needed some help, and especially this wasn't like come back from Thailand, do it. I was tracking calories, I was working out, and there was changes, but it was too slow. And
you're not the greatest one for patience. You're not the greatest one for patience.
I'm not a patient man. I'm not a patient man. But still, I'll tell you what I was basing this on. This is how ridiculous it was. The only other time that I had done gym work and to try and get a little bit musclier was when I was about 19 or 20 at university, and I managed to get into a routine that lasted about 6 or 7 weeks. And after 6 or 7 weeks, I did actually notice a difference, and to the extent that people were mentioning it. That's the time frame I was expecting this time around as well.
In your 40s, don't happen in your 40s. You've got to double that and add 3.
Well, even more I was finding as well. And one of the things that really was messing with my mind, so to speak, was the number on the scale. Now, what I would encourage anyone to do is actually take measurements and photos of your waist and all that sort of stuff, because getting on the scale may not necessarily tell you the full picture. And the guy who runs my local gym was telling me that ignore that. Just make sure you're consistent with your diet and your workout routine, and the results will come. And I guess they were, but they were still slow, which is what initially prompted me to research this. Like, as I say, the research was, can I afford it? Yeah, there are 2 suppliers. Eli Lilly does Mounjaro and Novo Nordisk does Ozempic, but in the UK it's known as Wegovy, but it's all the same thing. Wegovy semaglutide, and then tirzepatide is it's actually, I think, another generation of what they call GLP-1 agonists, which is the name of the sort of family of medicines that.
So what did you do? Did you start with Wegovy? Did you start with Mounjaro? I mean,
Well, I didn't know the difference between the two, and you can't just. I think there's a little bit of a misconception is that you just order it online like Amazon and it comes through the door. That is not what happened. So I just Googled, and Newman was one of the first results of that. I clicked on it, and then you go through a whole process about your height, your weight, your BMI, your lifestyle, and because I mean the thing is, my BMI was over 30, which I think is the cut off for it anyway. And there are other providers as well that I think if you are at a BMI of 29, for example, they will still prescribe it, because what they were finding is that they were knocking people back at BMI of 29. They were putting weight on to get above the threshold.
the system.
Prescribed, yeah, exactly. And of course, nobody wants, it's like Homer Simpson eating cream cakes and all that to get as fat as possible.
Terrible, that.
Just so you can be prescribed it. So you do have to go through this whole process. And there was also a video consultation that I had as well, but maybe just to make sure that you are as fat as you say you are. And much to my annoyance, they said, yes, you are.
See, I never had that. I had to send photos. I think I did it. Obviously, you were on the pathway before me, and things have progressed a bit really quickly. There's a number of suppliers out there, and they've all got different ways of verifying that you are the weight you say you are. I just had to send photos. I mean, to be perfectly honest, bloody hell, I mean, from 30,000 feet, they could have seen I was eligible for it. But yeah, it was just it's a good process.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there is a lot of talk at the moment about regulating this a lot more heavily, and maybe it should be. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert by any means. I guess the issue for if there is an ethical issue is that, are you taking it away from diabetics, for example, who this medicine was actually designed for? Quite frankly, I mean, it's either available or it's not.
Yeah.
And
I've never seen it on the supplies I've used. I've never seen it out of stock. That's my personal experience with it.
And it's kind of hit the mainstream as well. So there's a very funny South Park episode about it, which does nail all the sort of ethical contradictions that you may find yourself in. But in the end, I didn't want to be fat anymore, so that overrode everything. And so then the package arrives. And I mean, one of the great things about this is they've taken something which is pretty scary, injecting yourself with drugs, and made it a piece of piss. Now, if you take other medications in this way, maybe you're more familiar with it. But so essentially you get a pen, or pen shape anyway.
It's not a video. Show me a video medium, because I've got one right here.
Yeah, it's like, you know those blue pens that you used to get at school with like the multicoloured ink selectors around the top. It's about the same size and dimensions as that, and you get some alcohol swabs. You swab the area. You put on a disposable needle. This needle is like an angel hair. I mean,
So
if
thin.
you're thinking like some sort of 1930s jollop administrative tool, you're way off. It is barely there, to the extent that when you do put it in, now you do this subcutaneously, so you're not injecting it into the muscle, it just goes into the skin. When I first did it, I wasn't even sure that it had gone in. So if you're frightened of needles, I can understand there might be some misapprehension about that.
I'm a man who has passed out whilst having blood taken at the hospital. I'm not ashamed to say that. I passed out on a couple of occasions. I hate needles, and you can give me that pen, and within 10 seconds, it's in my bloodstream. It's no problem whatsoever.
So these passing out
Oh, here we go.
incidents, I think we should hear more about those. It's a little sidebar.
Well, one of them wasn't that long ago, and I was already on the weight loss program. And I'm sure you remember I had a bit of a health scare that was thankfully okay at the end of the summer last year. I was severe sciatica. I was getting treated for. It was all the way down from my back, all the way down to my calf. I couldn't sit. I would have to work laying on the bed because sitting was agony. Walking was fine. Everything like that in a sitting position was a no-no. Pain was so bad, I was taking some quite heavy-duty painkillers, over-the-counter ones, but I was taking those. I was sitting at my desk, and there's no finer way to put it, I started suddenly anally bleeding. So that was, thankfully, it wasn't. This is another subject I'd like to talk about at some point, because I think...
Anal bleeding, we didn't put that in the trailer.
It was, when they put me on the cancer pathway, that's a wake-up call, let me tell you. Even though I was fairly certain, looking at the side effects of the drugs I was on, that was one of them. But when they say the words cancer pathway, it sort of makes you reassess your but yeah, so I went into hospital, and they took my bloods and passed out and pissed myself. Only a little bit away, but there was dampness there. I passed out when they put the cannula in. And I felt myself going, I was, not like the 30,000, but everything started going grey around the edge. And I had a lovely little sleep for about 15 minutes. Yeah, it was nice. Wet jeans, lovely. Really good.
And do you go home in your wet jeans?
No, I was admitted to hospital, and my good lady wife brought me up clothes and pyjamas because they were keeping me in because they couldn't stop the bleeding.
The anal bleeding,
yes, the anal bleeding.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I'm glad everything was worked out okay in the end.
So, yeah. So it's going back to the injections. The injections are, because you can either do it in your thigh or your stomach. I found that I did it the first one in my thigh. Little jab, but nothing major. And then obviously reading online, everyone's saying do it in your stomach, and yeah, just don't feel a thing.
Yeah, I was doing it in my leg as well. I sort of joined a Reddit community, but that was full of 5'2", 450-pound American women, which probably they're exactly the sort of people that should be on it. If you want to change your life, great, I'm all for it. But their kind of experience of getting there and then coming back down the mountain, so to speak, as well, is completely different. So, but they were saying stomach, but I don't know, just found leg a nice little spot. But I did have side effects. I felt tired the whole time, and I felt a bit sick the whole time. And that was why I wasn't eating as much. I mean, I wasn't hungry. You get that sort of post-sickness hunger whenever you've been ill. That never materialises. And I think what else, I mean, I'm going to say this with the confidence of someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, but it felt like the reward system in your brain is turned off as well. So when you go to, the snack cupboard and just have one cheeky little chocolate or whatever reward system you get from that is turned off. So even if you do that, you're likely to, not feel the same about it and not do anything.
Well, there's been actually now it's been on the market and it's more widely available to people. There's actually studies coming out at the moment, and I will find some stuff on it that I was reading stuff that because it turns off almost the impulse, that desire for, I'll have a chocolate, after you've had dinner, immediately your brain says, get something sweet, or have a drink. It turns that off. And then what they've noticed is people that were overweight that were on it, and obviously these are American studies because it's been widely available there longer. Some of them that had gambling addictions, that greatly reduced or stopped altogether. People that were alcoholics, it diminished that as well. So it's the longer it's out there, they realise the other benefits it may have. What was your total weight loss while you were on it? How long were you on it?
So if I remember, I was maybe 3 months.
Yeah.
3 or 4 months, and I went from 95 kilograms, which is about just 15 stone, down to about 15 stone, down to about 80 kilograms, which is about just under 13 stone in freedom units. So it does say, like, common side effects of these drugs include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, constipation, upset stomach, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating, loss of appetite. You'd hope that was a...
It's not a side effect, that's the whole point in my book.
Yeah. Runny nose or sore throat, stomach flu, headache, dizziness, tiredness, and low blood sugar in people with type 2 diabetes. So, it's not necessarily going to be a walk in the park. I do know other people that just couldn't get on with it. I just about got over it. I was really tired on it, and I did feel sick, but part of that was stopping me from eating rubbish the whole time. And when you do start to, move from food as enjoyment just to a power supply, and so you can think about it a little bit more healthily. I'll tell you the other side effect that's not mentioned on there is that my wife's and my main hobby is going out for dinner. And then,
you must have saved the fortune.
Well, just not only save, but so that's the upside of it. The downside is that what are we doing at the weekend? Just sitting in the whole time, and we're not going to go down to Moo Moo's and start clubbing and doing all that sort of stuff. But and so that was a side effect that's not listed on there. The fact that if your socialising revolves around going around people's houses for nibbles and drinks or meeting them at a restaurant, as that's a sort of mid-40s way of entertaining and filling up your weekend, that sort of goes away as well. So
you have to talk to each other and stuff. And
I know, which may not necessarily be for the best. But
I never got any side effects. I think I was quite lucky with it. But I know my wife was on it for a few months. But she had the acid reflux and the burps. It's like living with a velociraptor, honestly. I don't know what this is. And then obviously looking at the side effects, as soon as she came off it, it was, back to usual levels, shall I say.
Yeah, I did actually switch from Ozempic to Mounjaro, and I found that a much smoother experience in terms of that. I mean, the effect is exactly the same, but not as nauseous.
Yeah. See, I went. They prescribed me Mounjaro from the start, so that may be why. If I would have had Ozempic, then maybe I might have had some side effects. But being on Mounjaro, I just didn't have any. And in the end, I mean, by the time I finished that, which is after 7 months, I think I was on it, it was just over 4.5 stone.
4.5 stone. I mean, that's pretty good going, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's with. But it does. It changes the way you see food. Exactly what you said, and it is a fuel. And I made some drastic lifestyle changes in regards to diet, but it's not. You can't see it as a crutch that that's going to take away all your problems. You've still got to do stuff yourself.
Yeah, and now are you taking it now? And how have you found keeping the weight off? Because all of these sort of weight loss solutions, whether it's Betty Ford or Fat Fighters or whatever it might be, the problem is what comes next. So how have you found that?
That was the worrying bit. I mean, I thought, oh Christ, here we go. It's gonna. But I think we're having it for such a sustained period, and it not being difficult. I know I've tried with diets before, where you're always hungry and you're always craving X, Y, or Z. Because you haven't had that craving, or you haven't, it just became routine. So I'm just eating healthier, and it's still easy. I have no adverts. I have a meal replacement shake for my lunch, and that's been standard. I started doing that during when I was on that, and I'm still doing that. Healthy breakfast and a normal dinner. I've never been a snacker, so yeah, it's been good. I'm still at the same level.
And did you tell anyone about it? How secretive were you? Because there is a little
stigma, isn't there?
There is a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, friends knew. I think with the older generation, I didn't tell my parents or my in-laws or anything like that, because then you've got to explain what the fucking hell the stuff is, and then you've got to go through all that.
Yeah,
but I've been pretty open with it, and yeah, I mean, people can see the results.
Yeah, I was a little bit secretive about it at first, and I think there as well is that.
Sorry, can I stop you there? You were secretive with it.
Yeah.
You started a fucking WhatsApp group about it.
That is being secretive in my mind. I'm an oversharer. What can I say?
We've still got a WhatsApp group, a weight loss WhatsApp group.
All right, so yeah, but that is a fair point. But no, I did. But apart from everyone in my contact books on my phone, I didn't tell.
Didn't tell anyone.
I didn't tell anyone. But I think I was. I can prostrate myself at the altar of ridiculousness in front of you and everyone else on that WhatsApp group quite happily. But people that I want to respect me, I had a different approach to that. But part of it is because, you're cheating. You're not doing. There's some sort of cheating involved in there, and I rail against this. Yeah. These food and beverage companies, they're allowed to use your own psychological and evolutionary weakness against you. Put salt and sugar and all sorts of other stuff in their products, so that you, from a very primal place, want more of it. Like there's a real sort of urge, like an existential urge to go and get it. Right? They're allowed to do that, but you've got to use willpower. Bang out of order. I don't see it as cheating. They've been cheating for years. When you go into a supermarket, it's all. They don't just put that stuff together willy-nilly. It is there to direct you around the place. It's little impulse buys as well.
By the counter. That's what I get.
Yeah, by the counter. That's why we get the governments trying to address this sort of stuff by putting. Why can't we have fruit and veg by the checkouts? Well, no one's gonna. Impulsively buy an apple, are they?
But you know what? I'm gagging for a courgette.
Yeah, exactly. Where are those aubergines?
Eggplants to our American listeners, or I imagine at the moment there are none, but you never know.
Well, I haven't checked the analytics yet. But
that's going to be another thing that I'm going to obsess with, analytics.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we've got some to study.
Yeah, that's true.
So these are just our experiences. Again, we said before that these are not recommendations. This is not advice. This is just us reflecting our own experiences, and you should seek out qualified medical professionals before you embark on this journey, if indeed you choose to do so. But we'd also like to hear from you. But even if you're thinking about it, if you've been on it, if you've got some experiences, remember we've got the social handles, which I have now remembered, which is at... what is it? Right. On Insta, it's at Dad's Got Another Tattoo. On Threads, it's at Dad's Got Another Tattoo. Email us at dadsgotanotheRtattoo@gmail.com. Blue Sky at Dad's Got Another Tat with 2 T's at the end there. And we look forward to hearing your stories. We aim to get some people who do actually know what they're talking about from a medical and training and drug perspective to give some more accurate information. But until then, we will see you later.
See you later. Bye.